Hi, I'm Pepper Cory, and I'm here on behalf of Studioe Fabrics. And what we're going to talk about today, right now, is a trend that's really taking the quilting world by storm. It's called English paper piecing. And yes, the English did invent it, but it goes back a long way. No matter how modern it looks, it has its roots in 19th century England. So this is a fascinating subject. And I wanted to do some hexagons, which are six-sided figures, which is the traditional English paper piecing shape. And so I drafted a hexagon in a size that I thought would work for lots of scraps. I have a lot of 5-inch squares. Sometimes you call them charm squares. So I wanted to make sure that my English paper piecing could fit within charm squares and I would use them up. How I drafted it. You need an old-fashioned compass with a pencil. And I think a piece of graph paper is handy too. So what I drew first was a 5-inch square. So I knew this is the size piece of fabric that I'm going to deal with most of the time. So I put the center of the compass in the center of the graph paper, and I made the stretch of the compass, or you'd call it the radius, go out 2 inches. And then I drew a circle. And 2 inches was the radius. Then moved the compass over here. It's on a line on the graph paper, but it could be anywhere on the circle, and made little ticks that crossed the circle like that. And then I came back with a ruler and connected them, and there you are. You have a beautiful hexagon that's equal on all sides. I knew geometry was going to come in handy one day. But because I had drawn it on graph paper, I realized after I'd used 2 inches as the radius of the circle that the sides of my hexagon were also 2 inches. Rather than go out and reproduce this on my computer or at the copy machine 100 times, I went and looked online and found, yep, there's a company. And they're called Paper Pieces. And they make these beautiful little die-cut paper hexagons. And yes, this set that I bought is exactly 2 inches on all its sides. So it goes with my drawing, but I was able to buy the patterns, and I got 150 in a pack. I thought that was a deal. So how big do I actually need to cut the hexagons? You would think as a quilter that, oh, you only need to add 1/4 inch, but that's not really true. If this hexagon shifts at all, it means when you're basting the fabric over it, you could have a tiny hem or way too big a hem. So in order to get the size that I really wanted to, I'm going to put on my glasses for just a sec here. In order to get the size, I made a little template out of old Mylar plastic, and I put it on my drawing, and I added a 1/2 inch to all sides. Can you see how it's starting to build, but it's a larger hexagon? So I'm putting a 1/2 inch on all sides of the hexagon that I drew. Because now, if I will use this new measurement as the guide for cutting my fabrics, I can be very sure that I will have enough as it laps over the paper piece. So here's the premise of it. You take a piece of fabric and your paper piece, you put them down together, and you take a basting thread and you lap the edges down over the hexagon like this. Take large stitches. Don't take tiny stitches because you want to be able to take the paper piece out eventually. The basting stitches are large and they should go all the way through the paper. Can you see on the front? The big stitches there? What it does produce is a nice tight hexagon, and the fabric is lapped around on all sides. Now if you're going to do the traditional block for a hexagon English paper piece thing, by the way, in America we've shortened it. We don't say English paper piecing, we say EPP. So if you're going to make these units, you make enough of them to go around a center, and the block is called a rosette. If you make enough of these and you want to assemble them in blocks, you make 6 of these and 1 center. And that's what I've done here. This yellow is the center. And now I'm getting ready and sewing the already basted orange hexagons around it. Let's talk for just a second about basting. In the next video, we'll talk about the 2 kinds of stitching, the basting and the sewing together of the hexagons themselves, which is called whip stitching.